So I was saying that I had about a 50% chance of it raining on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I took a look at the Weather Channel, and it's saying that I got a 90% chance of it, somewhere between a 85 and 90% chance of it raining on Thursday, but it's probably not going to rain on a Wednesday or and then on a Saturday, Sunday, or something like, you know, I got about 3 chances of it to rain over the next week. And so you know, I got urea on the field right now, and you know, in terms of a urea application, I would say that it takes about a ½ inch of rain for that urea to get into the soil pretty good. And so you know, the rain should be enough for the urea to kick in, and so that's good. Here in about a week, I'll be taking animals over to the new field. And yesterday, you know, I was talking about this, and I was talking about this whole thing about the water situation, and you know, how I almost got into legal limbo land. And you know, I thought, you know, because yesterday I was actually you know, because when the idea was introduced into my brain, when I thought about the idea and then I considered it for what it was, I was like, you know, I didn't really even look at it from that perspective. And now that I see it from that perspective, it kind of you know, I just wanted to take a, you know, because I think that all of this time I've realized how well that I'm doing, right? I've taken a look at what I'm doing, and I realized that I'm doing very well for myself, but I haven't ever told myself that I'm doing a good job. And so I'm just gonna take about 5 seconds today. You know, I'm not gonna dwell on it for too long, but I'm just gonna tell myself, hey man, you know, I did a very good job, and then now I'm gonna move on. Now I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to what I was doing. Okay, so I'm doing a very good job, and you know, now I'm gonna move on from that. And because yesterday I didn't realize just how well I was doing. Okay, here's what I was talking about yesterday. Because imagine that I went into legal limbo land, and all of the money that you know, and all of the money that I've been storing, you know, I have all this money in the equity of my property. I have these cattle. I have the money that I put in the option contract. Imagine what would happen if I did not move forward with this contract, right? I mean, not if I didn't move forward, but if I went into legal limbo land with this contract and the contract could not be fulfilled. Imagine what would happen to my financials, right? I mean, I would get my $25,000 option contract back. I'm still in the net positive, almost 15 grand on these cattle. I mean, that's 40 grand. You know, I got about 100,000 in equity on this property. You know, and then I have a cattle loan, right? If I have $40,000 in my cattle, and I take another $40,000 loan on top of that, you know, that's $180,000, right? And imagine, you know, I don't want to be sitting. I was talking about this yesterday, but sitting around with 200 grand is not going to fix anybody's problem. All right, it's not going to fix any. There is no reason for me to sit here with 200 grand. It's not going to do anything. And if you think about it, in terms of how I utilize money, right? If I think about it in terms of how I utilize money, if I have $40,000, you know, in my cattle, and then I have another $40,000 loan, that puts me at a net zero balance, and I have to invest $80,000 into my cattle. So think about this. If I have $80,000 into my cattle, and one of my animals cost me $800, I would have to purchase like what is that, like 100 animals? Is that what I would have to purchase? 100 animals, right? To use 80 grand, I would have to I would have to purchase 100 animals. And now that doesn't even put me in the negative. That just puts me at zero. And so if I'm appreciating 100 animals at the same time, I mean, and this is also what I meant by I don't want to be in a situation where at the end of the year, I need to go and buy 200 cattle and put them on my field, right? Because it's like if I have 100 cattle and, 100 cattle, well, I miscalculated that. If I had 100 cattle and I had made 50 grand on the cattle, or if I had made 40 grand on the cattle and then I invested the 40 grand and then I invested another 40 grand on top of that, my tax bill would effectively be zero. But I think, you know, I actually haven't gone over this idea in a long time, but I think I was saying that by the end of next year, right? I mean, I think that's what I was saying. I don't remember this detail exactly, but I'm pretty certain I was saying by the end of next year, I would actually be stuck in a situation where I have over 200 cattle on a 10.5 acre field, right? And so, like sitting around on a 10 acre field with $200,000 is not going to do anything for me. All right. I mean, I've talked about this all the time. You know, $200,000 is a minuscule amount of money. Even if I was given $200,000 today cash, it's not like I can retire. It's not like, oh my God, now, you know, and I've already talked about this in terms of a big idea. You know, it's not that important to have a large, it's more important to develop an idea of money and to have an understanding of how to fundamentally, generate more money than it is to have a large sum of money. Lucy, come here, leave him alone. And so, I almost ended up in a situation where I was actually sweating. But I think that it's kind of interesting how these things pan out because, the thing about me is that, I didn't really look at it from this perspective until what happened yesterday happened. Right, when I was talking with the city people and they were telling me something about the zoning issue, or not the zoning, the subdivision issues, something about the city map and the utility department, and I was like, oh my God, like if I end up in legal limbo land, that is not where I want to be. I mean, the thing about me is that I make my money by running cattle. All right, I talk about this all the time. In terms of when I look at my financials, the way that I make money is by running cattle. I want to be running cattle. Running cattle makes me more money than anything else that I could possibly be doing. All right, I don't want to be in legal limbo land. I don't want to be sitting here on a 10.5 acre field with 200 grand. Right, I mean, I don't want to be sitting here, with $200,000. Right, I mean, that's not a good idea. Right, I mean, and so, I confirmed this morning. I talked to the city people this morning, and they said that I'm good to go. And the whole water situation is that I think that by about March, when it starts raining a lot, because it's been very, very, very dry. Lucy, come here. It's been very, very, very dry. I haven't really gotten any water. I would say that over the last about maybe 4 months, I've only gotten about 4 inches of water. Over the last 3 months, it's very dry, and so I don't have any water. And so but I think that by about March it's going to start raining again. And when it starts raining, I want to make the pond. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and just rent a backhoe by myself. If I rent one, it's like $400 a day, and I could rent a big one, a big excavator, and then I can just dig out the pond myself. And so that'll probably save me a lot of money. And I figured what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go for it myself. And if I mess it up very badly, then I can bring in a professional to dig out the rest of it and to fix it. But I'm just gonna go and do it by myself and see if I can do it. And Lucy, come here. And if I mess it up, then it was, it's only $400 to rent that excavator. And so, I'm just gonna go and borrow the excavator by myself, and I'm gonna dig out the pond by myself. Lucy, come here. And so I'm gonna go and dig out the pond by myself, and if I mess it up, then I'll bring in the professionals to do it. But this land that I'm buying right now, I technically do not own the land until December 30th. Right, the land that I'm buying right now, I don't own it until December 30th. That's effectively when the contract is closed. And so on December 30th is when I start officially owning the land. And but I'm gonna start putting cattle on it this next week. But Lucy, come here. But I was but it's interesting how these things work out, because yesterday I was almost in a situation like, oh my God, like if I actually enter Lucy, come here. Hey, come here. If I actually go into legal limbo land and I need to take my money and invest it into something else, I'm legitimately stuck in a situation where I'm sitting around with 200 grand. And that's not good. All right, that is not good. I mean, 200 grand is not going to do anything. $200,000 is a minuscule amount of money. And imagine what, you know, like, you know, granted that I probably would not, like, if I did end up in legal limbo land and I did have to take my money and go somewhere else, I wouldn't invest all of my money into my 10.5 acre field, right? I mean, I wouldn't, you know, and I've already talked about this. I don't want to be sitting on this field with 250 cattle, right? I mean, I don't want to be sitting on this field with 225 cattle. That's not a very good idea. And so, you know, but yesterday was when I really realized, you know, what is going on with my financials in terms of just net positive cash. I'm almost net positive in terms of cash and like cash equivalents, right? I mean, you know, when I look at it and I take a consideration for what it is, I mean, in terms of my net positive cash and my net positive, you know, cash equivalents, it's almost about, it's somewhere between like it's somewhere around like $175,000-$200,000 already. And I didn't actually even take that into consideration until yesterday. You know, and I was like, you know, it's kind of interesting how these things pan out, because it was like I wasn't even thinking about that. And then yesterday I was like, oh my God, if I enter legal limbo land, if I legitimately enter legal limbo land, then I need to go and take my money and invest somewhere else or something. I need to go and do something with this, because, you know, it's not gonna, you know, it's you know, the taxes and whatnot, you know, all these different problems. You know, I don't want to be sitting around with 200 grand and, you know, et cetera. So, and I actually sat there and I thought about it, and I was like, oh my God, like I may actually need to take my money and then go and you know, go buy a different piece of land or and buy more cattle or something. I'm gonna have to go and do something, because I mean, you know, I don't want to be in legal limbo land and then just be sitting on a 10.5 acre field with $200,000, and now it's like I need to put 250 cattle on my 10.5 acre field. That's not a solution to my problems, right? I mean, that's not a reasonable solution. And so, you know, but I thought about it yesterday. I digested the idea, and then because the thing about me is that I had, you know, because me, you know, like I've always said that me, if things are going very well for me, I'm just gonna say it. But if things are not going well for me, I'm just gonna say it too. And why do I do that? Because if you're doing well and if you're not doing well, it depends, you know, it doesn't matter. If you're doing well, then everybody knows. If you're not doing well, then everybody knows. I've always said that in terms of my situation, in terms of any situation, I've always said that there is no hiding in the tall grass, right? I talk about this, you know, I talk about this idea all the time. There is no hiding in the tall grass. All right, I think that a lot of people, it's like, oh, you know, maybe if I just, but me, I've come to the conclusion that there is no hiding in the tall grass. You know, it doesn't matter either which way. It's very obvious, right? I mean, you know, it's very obvious, you know. And so I was like, the thing about me is that, you know, I've fully acknowledged this, and you know, there is no hiding. So I just speak the truth. All right, I just tell it how it is. That's my big thing. I'm just gonna be honest, and I'm gonna be as sincere as I can be, and I'm gonna move forward with the intentions of you know, doing the best, the most good that I can for humanity. Right? I've talked about this, you know, in terms of my reality. It's like, you know, you have to understand that in terms of like, if you took a look at my performance, if you took a look at how well, you know, how well or how not well, I mean, whatever you want to say, I mean, if you take a look at what I'm doing, I legitimately managed to get into the very, 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 very top percentiles of the entire US economy. And if you take a look at the money for what it is right now, if I did not move forward with my new project, I would be sitting on this field right now with $200,000 cash. All right, I mean, that's not good. That's not good. If I have, you know, that's not you know, the cash and cash equivalents. All right, I mean, you know, money that I have very easy access to, I can just go and just use it like money. All right, and so, you know, you know, if I went and took a business line of credit and et cetera, I mean, you know, I don't even know how much more money I could get. But in terms of just the money that I have access to right now, like, you know, the equity on my property, the equity of my herd, in terms of just the amount of cash that I put into the new project, and, you know, if I ended up getting that money back, and then I have the money that I make on these animals, and then, you know, and then I have the equity of my property, you know, it's borderline 200 grand. All right, and, you know, and if you want to take a look at that, I mean, you know, then you can take a look at whatever it is that makes you, you know, that you know, it's like, You know, it's like if you understand, you know, just understand what's going on, right? I mean, you know, and here's the thing, is like me, if I was sitting on this 10.5 acre field with 200 grand cash, that, you know, I would legitimately end up in a situation where I have like it's gonna be like I don't know, it'd probably be like 225 animals or something like that by next year, and then you know, by halfway through next year, and then I'm gonna have to, you know, it'd be I mean, it would be ridiculous. All right, I mean, you know, I don't want to be in a situation, and then it's like, if you look past that about 9 months, I mean, now I'm talking about a situation where I need to have about 500 cattle, right? And it's like, you know, what am I, you know, 500 cattle, I mean, where am I going to put 500 cattle? I mean, I'm on a 10.5 acre field, right? And so, you know, I'm very, you know, I took a look at everything yesterday, and now that I take a look at this too, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, I took a minute to tell myself, I took about 10 seconds to tell myself, because I understood that I was doing very well for myself. All right, I fundamentally understood that, but I did not ever tell myself that I did a good job. And so, you know, I'm gonna tell myself, I did a very good job. I mean, I did incredibly well, you know, and I did not really realize that until yesterday. And so, you know, I just took a minute to tell myself to take a look at it for what it is, and just acknowledge that I am doing very, very well. And I've just told myself good job, because all of this time I realized how well I was doing. You know, I realized how well I was doing. And you know, it just for whatever reason, I took a look at it from a different because of everything that happened yesterday. I took a look at it from a different angle. And when I looked at it from that angle, I was like, you know, I should just take a moment to tell myself, hey, you know, you're doing very well. I mean, you're doing exceptionally well. And so that's what I told myself. You know, I'm doing exceptionally well. You know, I'm you know, and the results are the results. I mean, I almost ended up in a situation where I was taking a look at it yesterday, where I ended up on this field with, you know, with $200,000 cash. You know, and if I have, you know, 200 grand, and I invest that, and let's say half of that needs to go into my cattle, I mean, we're talking about me having almost like a, you know, like 100 animals by, you know, within the next 3 months on this field. And then by the end of next year, I would need to have like 250 cattle. All right, and so that's not exactly a good situation to be in. That's not a very reasonable situation to be in. And so, you know, but yeah, those are the numbers right now. Those are the numbers. You know, I've always said, you know, I've been talking about, you know, when I take a look at my money, you know, I'm doing this well, and et cetera, and you know, when I take a look at how much money I generate, you know, a majority of my money gets generated via equity. You know, I make a positive return on my equitable assets. And when I take a look at it in terms of just how much, you know, and this is, you know, and I don't want you to get discouraged. All right, if you're watching my video, I'm not flexing. I'm just saying that this is legitimately what happened in my life. And I'm just giving you my perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like you may not ever get to see this again. Nobody might ever get to see this again. I don't know how many people are on YouTube right now that are just like, you know, I legitimately am in like somewhere between the top 0.00001 to top 0.00001% of the entire U.S. economy. And here is exactly how I did it. I don't know how many people do that on YouTube other than me. And if you think about it, in terms of the possibility of this happening, I mean, we're talking about like 20,000 people in the entire country that is capable of doing something like this. And I've talked about this like in terms of a broader idea. The reason that I generate such a massive amount of money is because I have the capacity, you know, in terms of my farming skill, in terms of skill level for farming, I may legitimately be one of a contender for one of the best on the entire planet. All right, I can legitimately go to a field in the middle of Central Texas by myself with nothing and make $1 million. All right, it's not that hard for me. At this point in time, it's not that difficult. And if you take a look at my numbers, I mean, it's like even after I've paid for everything, et cetera, I'm still net positive almost $200,000 cash. That's another way to look at it. All right, I mean, I'm net positive like 175 grand. All right, and so that's another way to look at it. I mean, even after I've done everything and paid for it, I'm still net positive like 175 grand. And so, you know, that's another way to look at it. And, you know, next week, I'm going to be taking my animals over to my new field. I'm going to put them on that grass. You know, I don't have the, you know, the new field is technically not mine until December 30th. And, you know, I'm going to put the animals on that grass. I got rain coming in this week. It'll be enough rain for the urea to kick in. And, yeah, these animals are going to get, they're going to get real big. I mean, they're going to be putting on weight real good with that grass. And then I'm going to have to figure out the water situation. But that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.